Hey everyone, it's World Film Geek here, and my latest interview is with Noah Le Gros, the son of actor James Le Gros. Noah was recently seen as Nicolas Cage's son in A Score to Settle. He's part of the ensemble cast of the horror thriller The Beach House, coming to DVD and digital on December 15th. Enjoy the interview. Well, I loved you in last year's A Score to Settle with Nicolas Cage, and it's
I'm glad, man.
And it's pretty cool to see you in the beach house, which really floored me because I thought it was going to go one direction and it just went completely into a different direction in terms of its
Well, I'm
scares.
glad you liked it, man. Appreciate that.
How did you get approached for the role of Randall?
It was, how did I think it was just through, I got sent the script somehow and I read it. I think immediately reading the script, I just thought it was really cool. I've always kind of liked cosmic horror
Mhm.
stuff, like all that Lovecraft. And this just really reminded me of that. And I think before anything, I just thought it was cool. I was like, oh, this is fun to read. If anything, no matter how this goes, if I end up working on this or not, that was a fun script to read. And then, I put myself on tape for it and I ended up meeting with Jeff. And we just sort of hit it off. We talked about like metal and horror movies, and I just immediately was like, oh, this guy, we click. One thing led to the other, and then all of a sudden we were in Massachusetts.
That's awesome. And you were joined by three great cast members. Liana Liberato, who is one of my favorite actresses this year. This is the third movie I've seen her in this year alone. And then you had
Yeah,
Marianne and
great.
Jake. Yeah, what were they like?
They're all awesome. I mean, it was a really very positive experience. Leon and I were up there together like the whole time, just living in this hotel, and she was really awesome. I mean, she at the point when I worked on the beaches, I hadn't done a ton of stuff, and she was, I don't know, she was super super helpful. She was always very. It's easy to work with someone who really knows what they're doing. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
it gives you a very steady anchor. And I think throughout sort of figuring out a lot of stuff still, just being able to look at her and see how she approached things was incredibly helpful. And Jake and Aaron, they were all just very nice, easy people, and very giving actors. Which helps, on a smaller movie, you're spending a lot of time together, and you're sort of in close quarters. So being able to work with people that were, nice and super well prepared and very professional just made the whole experience very easy, or easier than I think it would have been had that not been the case.
Yeah, and what's interesting is your character Randall. Him and Emily are like night and day. You know, she knows what she wants in life, and he's not sure what
Yeah,
he wants. And I think that whole opposite attracts thing really comes into play for the first like part of the movie, and then it. I thought when I first saw the movie, I thought the old couple was going to do something to you guys, but then I saw
oh
what
yeah.
really happened, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not what I was expecting, but that's what made it really good. It's just like that little twist in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of plays on genre tropes in a lot of ways, right? I think Jack, again, he watched a bazillion movies, so he's really very well versed in how to, I think, play on audience expectations, because it sort of starts like oh, this could be like a rom com, and then then you expect, oh, it's going to be like a sort of a slasher film kind of thing, or this crazy old couple is going to eat us or something. And then it goes in a completely different direction, and it becomes this sort of cosmic horror, reflection on power of nature or whatever. Yeah, I think that's all down to Jeff, really. I mean, the script, I think, is super tight and well thought out, and I think that was all very conscious on his part on how to, lead audiences in one direction before pulling it in a completely different way.
Right. And what I liked was like from the beginning we saw Marianne transform, but then you were like your transformation was kind of slow paced, but it really
Yes.
it really brought the film along. And I gotta say, kudos go to the special effects teams because they made you look like something that came out of
Oh,
an
they killed
'80s.
it. They killed it. It was that was really fun. I mean, for me, that was probably the most fun is just getting to stuff is,
Yeah.
it's just like you get to really just, be weird and kind of go all out. You don't have to like hold anything back at all. You know what I mean? You can like vomit goo and like.
Oh, I
In
did.
a way, it's like being a kid again. And, you know what I mean? And making like movies and stuff in your backyard.
Yeah, I will say the scene where Liana is pulling something out of her foot, I was cringing that whole entire time when I watched it. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh, if I did
Oh,
that.
it's brutal. Yeah, yeah. And the special effects team they did. I mean, what they did with what they have is really remarkable. It's cool. I mean, and it's also like the cool thing, but like, I don't know, it's like you look at all these old horror movies and stuff like that. So much of it is what the special effects teams can do, like how they can make your skin crawl and stuff like that. So yeah, they killed it.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, I'm glad it definitely was a throwback because I miss those old days of the practical effects where and then we had the CGI era and it just doesn't work it can't work today, and that's what made this.
And I think like actual like prosthetics and stuff, if they're done correctly. I was actually talking to someone about this the other day about how like whenever I like movies from like the 80s and I guess early 90s and stuff like that, and they were still just building everything.
Yeah,
have aged a lot better than movies from like the early 2000s where like CGI, but because the CGI is just worse. You know what I mean?
yep, I totally agree.
Like you watch those movies and you're like, oh, this is just like bad CGI. But then you like, go back 10 years earlier and they didn't have CGI and it ages way better because they just like built everything. Like you watch the first Alien or whatever, and all those sets they built like look incredible. I mean, it totally holds up. Just because they actually just built everything. It wasn't like totally green screened.
Exactly. So, how long were you said you were on the shoot there? How long was shooting, and were there any problems that you all had to face during production? Because I know, like with indie films, it's a lot of like usually like
Yeah,
time
I
and
think we
budget.
were there for like a month, 3 weeks. I can't remember exactly. It wasn't that long. I mean, I think the main challenge, at least for Liana and I, was just the weather, because it was pretty freezing. It's Massachusetts in like early spring, like before the season starts there. So maybe I think it was April, March. It's cold at night, and we were doing a lot of night shoots and a lot of like running around in bathing suits, basically. And it was cold. It was definitely cold. I think I got like it was that was it helped in a lot of ways because it sort of fueled performance. But I think for everyone, like there were definitely a few nights when everyone was just freezing.
Yeah.
It's Massachusetts. It's not Southern California. It's cold at night.
Right. I know. I'm from New York originally, so I know the weather's like up in that area.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just like it's the coast. It's windy. It's wet, and then it's like it's not even like fully spring, or it's spring, but it's like it's a weird East Coast in between sort of thing.
Right.
So I think for like as far as everyone, that was probably the biggest thing. But I don't know. I think like generally speaking, I think things went pretty smoothly. I think everyone there was pretty invested in it, and knew what they were getting into. You know what I mean? Like nobody was under the impression that they were showing up to shoot a Marvel movie.
Right.
And I think everyone knew what the deal was and was happy to be a part of it and worked really hard. And things went fairly smoothly. You know what I mean? There weren't really any like massive, oh my God, we don't have a location or something like that. And there was like nobody out there either. It was empty on the Cape. I think like one or two times the cops were called, because they heard like screaming or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was it. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I think it was like when Liana was doing that foot scene or whatever, and had to like scream. But there was no. Yeah, it was good. But I think that comes just down to the crew and everyone. They were all very super professional and really good at their jobs and made everything.
Right. Well, finally, with TV and film production slowly coming back, is there any new projects in the works for you that you can talk about?
Not really right now. I do session work. I played music, so I've just mainly just been playing on people's records, you know, and then just waiting for touring and live music and all that stuff to come back. So, you know, hopefully the vaccine's coming soon and live shows will become a thing again, but we'll see.
Awesome. So the Beach House is coming on December 15th, and those who think that it's going to go one way but then ends up big fans of Lovecraft style films, they're going to want to see this. And Noah, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk about the movie.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, you take care.
You too.
All right, bye.